It's another day of urgent motions as members of the House of Representatives adjust to the challenges of the newly renovated chamber, even as renovations continue. After stepping down a motion on the cybersecurity levy the previous day to allow the leadership of the House deliberate more on it, the minority leader presents a comprehensive motion calling for a halt and modification of the implementation of the cybersecurity levy contained in a circular by the central bank.
The House is further concerned that the words of the CBN circular leaves the CBN directive to multiple interpretations, including that the levy be paid by bank customers, that is Nigerians, against the letter and spirit of Section 44(2)A of the Act, which specified businesses that should be levied accordingly. The House is therefore called upon to resolve to direct the Central Bank of Nigeria to withdraw the ambiguous circular and issue an unequivocal circular in line with the letters and spirit of the law.
Next, the House considers and approves a motion mandating its Committee on Foreign Affairs to carry out a holistic investigation into the activities of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Missions.
The country has properties and assets across the world under various missions, many underutilized and several others abandoned, which if properly audited and harnessed well will enhance efficiency of our foreign services. A lot of missions, local staff ceiling has been exceeded due to violation of rules, and in some instances the ceiling of foreign service officers. This has further resulted in indebtedness in the respective missions.
In another motion, the attention of the House is drawn to a possible violation of the Procurement Act in the award of contract for the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road.
Aware that the procurement strategy adopted by the Federal Ministry of Works for the award of the contract violates the Infrastructure Concession and Regulatory Commission Act 2005, as Section 4 of the Act outlines that all approved infrastructure projects and contracts for financing, construction, and maintenance must be advertised for open competitive bid in at least 3 national dailies.
The House mandated committees on works and public procurement to investigate the matter and asked the Ministers of Works, Finance, as well as the Attorney General and Minister of Justice to avail the House with all supporting documents. Another motion for investigation before the House is on the urgent need to rejig the Niger Delta Power Holding Company.
The management of the Niger Delta Power Holding Company is proposing to designate the 252 megawatt open cycle power station as a construction site, thereby abandoning its primary responsibility of running it to the benefit of the state, the Niger Delta, and the nation at large.
The House also resolves that the managing director of the Niger Delta Power Holding Company should appear before the Committee on Power to shed light on the state of the company. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
And there we have it. That is the background that will be, creating what it is that we are talking about in this particular segment. We have in the studio with us Honorable Nkem Abonta, who's the former chairman, House Committee on Public Petitions, staying here with us for this conversation on a plethora of issues that are coming from the House of Representatives. But it's so nice to have you here with us on the program this morning.
Morning, viewers.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this cybersecurity levy and where the House is on it. Where do you stand, and how do you see all the kickback against it? One of the questions that we've been trying to ask since the beginning of this issue is there any good side to it? But what we're hearing from the House of Representatives is that, look, it's a bit ambiguous. Multiple interpretations can be derived from what has been said. Talk to us a bit about that.
Yes, for every law, of course, there will be good side and the perhaps negative sides. But I am happy that the present regime is trying to develop the digital economy. It's worth doing. We must look into our digital economy. But however, the digital economy must be sanitized. It must be clear how you practice it or not, so you can avoid or reduce to the minimal the shortcomings. The present cyber cafe thing is a welcome development if properly practiced. But as it is now, I think if you look at the timing of where we are now, and if you look at the confusion surrounding the whole thing, you see that perhaps this is not properly grasped of the intent of and the spirit and the letter of the said act they want to implement. They issued orders that are contrary somehow and also confusing to the intendments and purports of the very act.
Let's get into that. I want to be able to understand what you mean. If properly practiced, what do you mean by that?
Yes, the aim of the levy is to raise funds to apply in sanitizing or putting in proper shape the digital economy, the cyber space, to avoid those who would misuse it and so on. The act is not supposed to add undue punishments to the public, to those who deal with cash transfers and so on. No, the law, if you look at it, specified the target, the spirit, the intent, and letters of that word. That was you look at. What was the ill before the act? Every law comes to improve, either to cure an ill or improve on it. So they should look at what was before the act and what the intent the act seeks to cure, and then look at how to practice it. If they practice the way they want to do, they will unleash hardship on Nigerians, double taxation and all manner of things. It will be a chain reaction. It will not be good for us.
Let's talk a little bit about that double taxation, because that is one of the things that has been mentioned here. Is it that we are not understanding the interpretation? Is it that this particular law is subject to multiple interpretations, as we've heard from the House of Representatives there? Or are they clear on this? Is the money supposed to come from individuals or businesses? Where is the clarification on what this is supposed to be about, especially if you're asserting right now that it involves multiple taxation?
I do not think the wordings of that law is that much ambiguous. If you look at, I think 44(2)(a) of that act, it specified the target, those who should pay. If you look at the second schedule of that act, because in writing that they use the schedule to prescribe who should pay, it's all placed there. It's not for general application of anybody who transfers funds. And CBN, either trying to or not understanding the act, is now trying to make it a general application to everybody who transfers money. It will lead to double taxation. If, for example, you lose 5 naira for every 1,000, or as the case be, you can see the small dealers on the pills and so on, so will suffer double taxation because one, the fintech will get their own, the cyber will take their own, the GSM transfer, the service provider will also check their charges, and the people also get some money, so that the end users will end up paying double or if not triple.
So what kind of review of these policies would you like to see?
Well, the proper interpretation to the act itself. I think the House in the wisdom, if you look at that motion moved by Right Honorable Inda, he made 2 prayers that the thing should stop. The application, the operation should stop. 2, that the relevant committees will advise CBN, maybe after looking a holistic study of it, and advise CBN much. But when you practice it, then you'll be able to know whether you will amend. After the act now is amended. It was amended, 2004 amendment. So the intent and the spirit of it is not to distress everybody. It is to make sure that sufficient fund is raised. But the act targeted some persons as detailed in the second schedule of the act. So it's not ambiguous. It is those trying to apply it. It is those trying to, the regulators now, CBN, that is issuing a circular. The circular itself is contradicted. The circular itself is, you can interpret it where you suits you. They should look at the act in doing what they want to do.
All right, Ayo, I'm sure my colleague in Lagos would have some questions for you right now. Ayo, how about you?
Yeah, thank you, Kayla. Going by what the, Kayla has spoken with you about, one of the questions that comes naturally to me is, the Senate seems to not be on the same page with the House of Representatives in their own position on the cybersecurity thing. How are you responding to that?
With greatest respect to the senators, I'm not opposing the House of Reps. They are saying we need that cyber thing to go on, but they didn't speak purely the details. You see, most of the senators are really concerned about cyber crimes. Of course, they'll be the worst hit if those Yahoo boys go on rampage and do a lot of things. They'll be the worst hit. They have more funds that could be looted and so on. So they are really worried. They want it to go on. But the details is what they do not say. The House of Reps is not saying don't operate it. They say, but look at it. Give the law the intent, the spirit, the purpose for which that law was created. Don't use it. In fact, it should be used as a shield, not as a sword to distress people. So I do not think that the Senate averse to what the House said, but just they merely made omnibus assertion and say we want that thing to go on, must go on, without looking at the details. By the time they realize the details, they will agree with us. If they have read the law, particularly the second schedule, they will see the dose that the thing is applicable to. So they wouldn't have said that. Let me give you an example. It's just like, for example, in the law charges 3% tax for all those oil companies operating in Port Harcourt in favor of entities, for example. That does not mean wherever you're operating in Nigeria, you should come and pay 3%. It's specific. So this cyber one is also specific to some operators. It's listed there, not for everybody, not for somebody who wants to go and transfer 10,000 naira to a student for upkeep and so on. No. It's specified who should pay. But CBN in their circular, either by mission or commission or however, brought a circular that is confusing, that puts everybody into trouble. That is why the civil society is agitating, persons are agitating. The House of Reps, being responsive, said no. Halt this thing until we get clarity what the circular is meant for. What is it all about? But the Senate also, in their own wisdom, said, no, we need that. Both houses are saying we need that law to go on, but it's a matter of procedure, it's a matter of details. So in difference to them, I do not think they're saying that law should operate blindly. That law should operate and cause hardship to Nigeria. If that is what they're saying, then Nigeria will not be at war with them. I don't think so. And I'm very, very sure that very soon or later, they will redefine themselves and be clearer. But for now, I prefer to go with the House to say, stop. Let's look at it properly. Let's define the intent and the spirit of the law and what the application. That's very important. Otherwise, we are encouraging cashless. So why are you putting a clog in the wheel of cashless? Why are you making it difficult? It can't punish people. It can't make them suffer. However, we need to also build our digital economy. It's very important. And in developing the digital economy, we should make it free, transparent, and keep away fraudsters from it.
Perhaps the angle really is, first of all, in the understanding. There are those who contend that this law was passed through the National Assembly. So if the law was passed through the National Assembly, this amendment that's perhaps, the issue, was passed through the National Assembly. Didn't this issue at all come up at all about whether or not Nigerians should pay 0.005% or 0.5%, whichever one it is, of whatever it is, whatever transaction that goes on? What exactly happened when this law was being discussed in the National Assembly?
You see, that's why a millionaire law is necessary to pass through a public hearing. All the relevant stakeholders will come and make contribution. But however, nobody could be above mistakes. Nobody can be perfect, 100% perfect. I'm not saying there was an error. But in any case, I don't see what is the error there. If you look at the schedule, if you look at 44(2)(a), I think that is the subject of discussion. It specified what tax ought to be. They went to this schedule to say who should pay. This tax is applicable to Mr. A, Y, Z, and so on going concerns. So it is not open. It is not of general application. So those who are applying it should be able to know what to do. Some other school of thought also have the idea that looking at where we are now, that is not time enough. The time is not too good to implement that now because Nigeria is distressed. It's not too good. We all know that now.
It's interesting when you put it that way. Honorable, just a second. When you say that, it's a function of timing, I mean, this law, correct me if I'm wrong, was amended maybe last year into this year, signed this year to the best of my knowledge, unless, myself and maybe a number of other people are missing a thing or two. So at what point would it have been perfect for this law to have been promulgated, where these amendments have been made, saying that it's a law that dates back to 2015, almost 10 years now?
Yes. the amendment that brought this came into 2024, if I'm right. Now, the moment it's being signed into law, it should be operational. Then how come CBN now deemed it fit to bring out the circular now, what was passed maybe months ago, the amendment? Well, how come? What I'm saying, even the National Economic, whatever, also have the opinion that timing shouldn't permit that now, in as much as that law ought to be in operational months ago. But if you look at the reality of Nigeria, nothing saying, okay, we are delaying this until we stabilize and so on. Nothing says that because of A, Y, Z of we are facing, we need to step down this until the time is proper. There's no time that cannot be good to do a law. But if certain indices are not in place, for example, we are having the subsidy issues now. It wasn't that before. So if you look at the totality of that, you can see that the timing is not too good to ask people to lose more money. Because what is tax? Tax is you lose money from the affected persons to government. And if government caused the problem, so in quote, they're talking about, why will you decide? So why not wait until we stabilize? It's not like a plane taking off. Yeah, we are yet to get to a cruising level. We are still running on the tarmac. So as soon as we begin to cruise, you can apply that. However, be it as it may, what we are saying is that the law itself should be properly interpreted and apply it if you want to apply it. You don't make it a general application. The issue now is who ought to pay, who should pay. Not even the 05 or 005, who should pay. But CBN is saying everybody on the road with that applying transaction should pay.
No, but
that's the problem.
I understand that there is a list of 16 exemptions in of those of transactions that should not be caught in the web of this particular regulation. Do you think that counts for anything?
Of course, even though I don't have that schedule here, but so CBN ought to do a proper orientation and specify those who are not caught up. But their circular says those involving financial transactions. So it's confusing. It's not clear. They cause the confusion, not the act itself. So if there are exemptions, they should make public those exemptions. If there are exemptions, they should sensitize the public. You know, in Nigeria, we like putting difficulties in the way of doing business. So now, people will now not want to transfer money. They may even want to waybill money now to avoid certain things. Most if the money is bulky. In the 70s and 80s, that's what people did. Traders did that. But presently, somebody coming from Abuja to trade in Abuja will transfer funds and pick it up in Abuja. So if you apply this, it will be double taxation at the point you are transferring to Abuja to then at the point you're also collecting to trade and so on. So those people who are exempted should be made to know. In fact, right now, traders are even scared. Within these few days, it has affected transactions, particularly among the traders, petty traders. I know I'm talking as from area. People move from Aba to Lagos to buy. And before they move, a day or two before they move, they transfer their money to Lagos. While in Lagos, they draw money and do transactions and so on. Don't you think if this law applies the way CBN wants it, those traders will pay double taxation? They'll prefer to put the money in the vehicle and travel with it.
I think it also underscores the importance of what you have said, Honorable, the fact that there needs to be a lot more enlightenment to Nigerians on this particular issue, because while there is a list of 16 exempt transactions that are exempted from this, the provisions of this particular law, one wonders exactly how we'll make progress on that. I guess it's back to CBN to make the clarification. There's another issue that we would love for you to speak to, Honorable Abonta, and that's the issue of the probing of the Lagos-Calabar Highway project. The House, we understand, has decided to launch a comprehensive investigation into this Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project. The last we heard, the Minister of Works says that this is not something that is new. It's something that's been on for a while now. And now we hear that the House of Representatives is thinking of probing the project. What is the issue that the House of Representatives is concerned about specifically?
Well, I will speak as I will analyze it from an outside. I'm not in the House currently, but from my own mind, the controversy surrounding the said projects, the argument surrounding that project calls for clarity, makes the House want to know what is it all about, how come it's awarded, was it done in shady deals? They need look at the amount involved and look at the project itself. It's very technical too. It's very critical. People like a lot of people are afraid whether it will be realized, whether it will be a white elephant project. The East-West Road is not completed yet. For many, many years, more than 20 years, we're still fighting on it. And this is more technical compared to East-West Road. However, the procedure for doing that award ought to be transparent, ought to be known to majority of Nigerians, ought to be known to the House, because they represent us. But be it as it may, it is a very high technical project. If you agree with me, I think the government is also allowed to do what they call selective bidding. But whichever method, either by publication, open bidding, or selective bidding, they should make it transparent. I do not think it's adverse or a crime if they did selective bidding. Knowing the technicality required and the kind of equipment that will be used, they can do what we call selective bidding by inviting restricted, or they call it restricted bidding. They can call 2 or 3 companies, say, come and show us quietly, you can do this. Come and show us. And they get the giant in the industry to do selective bidding and so on. But whichever method they decide to should be transparent. And the House, in their oversight function, is very, very correct. It's very, very right to say, come and tell us. We need to call the ministers, to whosoever is involved in all the processes should come and satisfy the House, look at what went through. If the House is satisfied, they issue a statement or report that the public will also read and be sure, either agree or disagree or raise further queries.
I mean, one of the things that was talked about, at the House yesterday was also about foreign affairs and the underutilized missions and foreign services, and that's something that it's interesting that this is coming up right now because it's been a complaint of many people. Foreign missions abroad in many places across the world and nothing to write home about. What do you make of this investigation, and do you think it's going to be able to give them better standing to handle issues of Nigerians in all of those countries?
You see, the issues of foreign affairs and foreign missions is being reoccurring. In fact, it's a big apology. Most foreign missions are in decay. Right from my 16 years I spent in Parliament, it was a topical thing. I don't think even this present debate can change anything. I don't know why Nigeria decided to abandon the foreign missions. They do little or nothing based on funding, based on capacity. It will shock you to see an ambassador or foreign mission sitting idle. They can't respond to our citizens in that country because they don't have, even to renew a passport or traveling documents, they will tell you they have nothing to do, they cannot help. If a Nigerian is in trouble or stuck, they hardly cannot come. Apart from the big countries like UK, US, other foreign missions are in misery. They are suffering. And I pray that the House will have enough courage this time. I pray that the House will have the political will to stand their legs, say, look, the foreign missions must be provided for. But if you look at the past, it's an apology. It's regrettable. It's not proper. It shouldn't be so.
Let's take it back to the cybersecurity levy. Of course, Ayo had mentioned it, 16 bank transactions that are exempted from the CBN cybersecurity levy. So I want to be able to go through most of them, so you can get an idea of what it is. The loan disbursements and repayments, that is exempted. Salary payments, exempted. Intra-account transfers within the same bank or between different banks for the same customer. Intra-bank transfers between customers of the same bank, other financial institutions, instructions to their correspondent banks, interbank placements, bank transfers to CBN and vice versa, inter-branch transfers within a bank, check clearing and settlements, letters of credit, banks recapitalization related funding, bulk funds movement from collection accounts, savings and deposits, government social welfare program transactions, for example, pension payments, non-profit and charitable transactions like donations to registered non-profit organizations or charities, and finally, educational institutions transactions like tuition payments. So these are some of the transactions that are exempt from this. But I think looking at the transaction, the exempt, it's the intricacies of implementing this. I don't know if you understand, with a lot of transactions going on and these ones involved in it, how are they going to be able to differentiate between this and that? And do the consumers understand, those who are the banked of Nigeria, do they understand these ramifications and, what can happen next?
From my own understanding, those exemptions will create confusion and create the enablement to even evade the so-called levy, because to differentiate them will be difficult. It will be very, very difficult. And from that list, it means those that the levy ought to apply to are increased. You see, those who do that particular thing. But again, on the same hand, the Act says GSM providers and the likes like that are supposed to pay. Those who operate under the telecom, GSM, and the likes of it are specifically mentioned that they should pay. So if you now come to exempt this and so on, it means some traders who get themselves into this should also pay. That is why we're saying that the House, in their wisdom, should look at a proper interpretation and then come out and advise CBN accordingly. And CBN, with their own circular, in fact, they should withdraw it and put on hold that until further legislative inputs are done, are properly put. I think that's what the House also want to say by halting the motion and saying, let there be a proper legislative understanding and input on it. And I pray that the House should also get experts in that industry, both in the cyber application, in financial sector, and legislative sector, so they can come out formidably with a proper thing to be done.
Well, Mr. Nkema Bonta, thank you so much for being with us on Sunrise Daily. Thanks for everything that you do, and good luck with all you have ahead of you.
Thank you very much.
We have been speaking with Honorable Nkema Bonta, former Chairman, House Committee on Public Petition.